Hey guys, Chris here, and I'm a Ukrainian Canadian. Today is October 22nd, 2024. Let's get to the news and updates happening in Ukraine and Russia, shall we? So, first, I want to talk about obviously the situation with North Korea's involvement in the war in Ukraine. We already know for the last week or two, there's been a lot of confirmation announcements that North Korea is indeed getting involved officially in the war. Close to 12,000 troops could join the Russian military in the next week or two and also take part of offensive operations in Kursk and also in Ukraine, possibly. There's also news today that not only will it be troops, but also North Korean pilots that could soon start flying Russian jet fighters or their own jet fighters against Ukrainian forces. So this is definitely something that is extremely escalatory. And so here, South Korea today came out with a confirmation that they are considering their next moves because, of course, they have to respond somehow. North Korea is a threat to South Korea, and weakening them anywhere around the world is a good thing for South Korea. So now the government of South Korea is mentioning that they are reviewing a plan to send an appropriate number of personnel, including intelligence officers who specialize, of course, in North Korea, and experts in enemy tactics, which will help conduct interrogations or provide interpreting if Ukrainian forces take certain North Korean soldiers prisoners. So this is extremely important, and I really doubt that South Korea is going to get directly involved by sending its own troops to fight with the Ukrainian forces. That's out of the question, and it's not going to happen, in my opinion. So this is very positive still. I think that this is much needed support by South Korea. And I think the biggest one would definitely be South Korea providing ammunition and weapons to Ukraine. This needs to be the next level because I'm not anticipating any country in the West, in NATO, to fight with Ukraine. Unfortunately, that's not going to happen. Ukraine has to fight this war by itself, and Ukraine can do that, but Ukraine needs to get continuous support and resources from its partners. And South Korea is one of the best countries for that. They have the industrial military complex for it. They have just the technology, the know-how, the know-how with regards to North Korea. They can definitely provide a lot of value for Ukraine. So I'm hoping that South Korea is going to take that seriously. They're not just considering and just talking about it. They're going to actually take some meaningful action in the next few weeks. Additionally, I want to talk a little bit about why this is happening. Why is Putin doing this right now? Let's face it, we're in the midst of one of the most important elections in the United States, which can decide the outcome, certainly for 2025 of the war and how things are going to progress. And so there's a lot of uncertainty in the West, a lot of, I guess, fear of what's going to happen next. And this is a perfect moment for Putin to bring these North Korean troops to say, hey, look at our alliances. They're strong, and I can bring next month 100,000 troops. I wouldn't be surprised if Russia would start making announcements like that. Like, we can bring more. Look at our partnerships. We're cooperating in full with North Korea, with China, BRICS. There was a BRICS meeting today with China, with India, with South Africa, and other countries. So Putin is really trying to show how his resolve, his partnerships, his alliances are strong to kind of make the West think that they're actually weaker, that they need to start negotiating. It's really Russia trying to send out a message that we want to negotiate, but of course, out of a position of power. So I really don't think that 12,000 North Korean troops is going to make that much of a difference on the front line and on the battlefield. This is pretty much a week's worth of troops for the Russians. They're about they're mobilizing about 30 to 40,000 troops per month, either recruitment or mobilization or conscriptions. So for them, about 10 to 12,000 North Korean troops who have very limited experience. Let's face it, they haven't fought a war in over 70 years. This is a brand new generation of fighters that never fought. So I don't think they're going to provide a lot of value and a huge impact on the battlefield. So this is something that we need to keep in mind, that this is so much bigger than just, well, North Korea decided to get involved, but it's a kind of a chess game that Putin is trying to play to really force the West into submission, make them feel like they're weaker, but they're not. You know, the West is so much more powerful than even Russia, China, and Iran combined, right? We just need to realize that, and we need to continue supporting Ukraine. So let me know what you guys think about it, but I'm definitely hoping that South Korea is going to take this matter seriously and send experienced personnel that's going to help Ukraine with destroying these North Korean troops in Ukraine, and also giving them valuable assets and resources, shells, ammunition, tanks, self-propelled artillery. Ukraine really needs that. So South Korea has those abilities as well. Now, the other good news I want to share with you guys is the UAV attacks, which continue. So these are Ukrainian UAVs, of course, that are hitting Russian factories and plants. In the last few weeks, this has really increased. And if there's one thing that I've noticed, of course, in the beginning of the year, it was more about Ukraine hitting oil refineries and oil depots. And now, as of September, we're seeing more and more of Ukraine switching its tactics and striking now more of factories and plants and strategic buildings. So I think there has been a shift of strategy by the Ukrainians here. So here you can see that Ukraine overnight struck multiple distilleries. So these are factories that are producing various products that utilize alcohol-containing products for the military, space facilities, and also for medical applications. One of them was hit in Tambov region. There's another one that was hit, one of those distilleries that was hit in Yefremov in Tula. And additionally, the Ukrainians also struck a thermal power plant in Sozemka in the district of Bryansk. So overall, we're already seeing in the last few months that Ukraine has changed its tactics, and it's really focusing on these really important factories that are producing key components for the Russian military. So I think this is a really good move by Ukraine, and just trying to see which kind of strike is going to impact the Russian forces, I think is really important as well. You can't just be hitting one target like oil depots and oil refineries. I think Ukraine is doing a good job at varying its attacks on various institutions and buildings and strategic assets that Russia has. So this is really good news, and anticipate more and more of Ukrainian attacks. Ukraine has really developed a very strong drone program. For us now, it's kind of crazy to think, but even early this year, like 200, 300 kilometer strikes were like, wow, this is crazy. Ukraine is striking, these strategic buildings and factories like 300 kilometers away from the front line. And now we're seeing these Ukrainian drones flying over 1,000, 1,500 kilometers through Russia and just hitting these like huge factories as well, like in Siberia. It's crazy how Ukraine has managed to really develop and innovate in the drone, the drone program. It's really, really making it's a game changer for Ukraine, truly. Without it, I think Ukraine would not have been able to hold out as long. So again, if you guys want to help out the Ukrainian drone program, there's multiple different funds that exist. You guys already know that I always link the Sternenko Rusuriz drone fund, which is building small FPV drones. So if you guys want to donate, please donate to the Sternenko Rusuriz drone fund. And last but not least, speaking of Bryansk Oblast being hit, it wasn't the only thing that was hit. It wasn't just a thermal power plant, but a high-ranking pilot was found dead in the Oblast last night. And thanks to the Ukrainian WUR special forces, who shared a very brief video of seems to be a secret operative within Russia that killed this high-ranking pilot. And why it's important is because this is another terrorist. This pilot, his name is Dmitry Golenkov. He participated in two very brutal terrorist operations in Ukraine. If you guys remember, back in 2022 in the summer, there was a devastating Russian strike on a shopping mall in Kremenchuk in Poltava, which killed about 22 people. Dozens of people were injured while people were just doing their shopping in the city. And also, he was part of another very deadly attack in Dnipro when multiple apartment buildings were struck with, I believe, bombs of pretty big capacity. And so he was the pilot that was responsible for these two brutal terrorist operations. And the one in Dnipro killed over 46 people and 6 children died as a result of that. So there's no sympathy for people like him. And you guys remember I shared with you guys actually the story last week of another commander being killed by another Ukrainian operative in Russia. So this is really good news because it's sending a message that these terrorist pilots, these commanders, these Russian pilots coming back from the front line to take a little break, have their vacation, they're definitely going to be looking over their shoulders and looking behind their backs, knowing that, you know, their comrades are getting hit one by Ukrainian special forces and operatives within Russia. So this has really serious reverberations within the Russian military circles. How come did this guy, and actually I forgot to mention that this pilot, Dmitry Golyankov, wasn't just shot dead. He was hit with a hammer, right? The hammer of justice. And this is really important because this wasn't just a thing that, like, you know, took a few seconds, he shot him and then just fled. He had definitely taken his time to provide justice to Golyankov. So this really indicates that these Ukrainian special operatives within Russia are freely operating. Of course, it's not easy to do that, but they feel more or less safe to conduct these operations. So this has really serious reverberations, and there's more and more fear that is being created because nobody will feel safe, even in Russia, whether it be these pilots, these commanders, propagandists. Ukraine operatives are really planning effectively these operations to eliminate these terrorists, which is really important as well. So this was a very quick update, guys. I hope you enjoyed my video today. Let me know what you guys think about the North Korean situation, South Korea potentially getting involved partially by providing assistance to Ukraine, about the Ukraine UAV attacks in Russia. And yeah, thank you for your support, and I will see you guys in the next one. Slava Ukraini!